Is with us here on set. Basically, you're talking about the left-leaning daily Libération. They've got a special report today from inside Syria.
Absolutely. It's on the front page here. Inside a devastated Syria. Now, they have an exclusive report on what the situation is like in Aleppo and Idlib. Now, they sent journalists there who describe what everyday life is like with daily attacks from the government, torture. Libération describes what it calls a slow, never-ending war with an uncertain future. And in their editorial, they point out that, yes, this is once again a front page dedicated to Syria. This is once again an editorial dedicated to Syria. But this is proof of just how tragic the situation is there. And it says that this war concerns us all, and we must not forget that what's happening in Syria is the continuation of the Arab Spring, and that Syrians are paying the highest price of all the people who went through the Arab Spring, of more so than the Libyans or the Egyptians. They're paying the highest price for their freedom. So Libération really pays tribute to their courage today. Also on the front page of Libération today is the new art museum, the new branch of the Louvre that's opening in Lens. Libération calls it an art mine, not a gold mine, but an art mine. Now that museum is going to be inaugurated today by President François Hollande, and it's also on the cover of La Croix, the Christian newspaper. Here you see a photo taken within the newspaper, and La Croix points out that the idea is to decentralize the Louvre's collection to reach a broader audience.
Yeah, it does look spectacular from images we saw a little bit earlier on. Now, La Croix, they also come back on a story that Florence mentioned yesterday. In fact, the government's appeal to the church to vacate empty buildings it owns to be used as emergency shelter for the homeless.
That's right. These were comments made by Housing Minister Cécile Duflot yesterday in the Parisien, and she called on the church to make these unoccupied buildings available for homeless people and threatened to requisition the buildings if the church doesn't do that. Now, several papers in France today are saying that these comments are coming back to haunt her. La Croix, for instance, looks at the church's response and says that the church feels like this is somewhat of an ultimatum by the government. And in their editorial that you see there, the Catholic officials say that they feel surprised and somewhat offended by these comments. They say that they didn't need to wait for the government's threat to act. They say that helping the poor, helping the homeless is what they do. That's their primary mission. And they say they have vast experience. Not only do they let open their buildings, but they also provide volunteers to help homeless people. And according to La Croix, the timing of this comment, it doesn't come as a surprise because the Catholic Church has been very vocal about their opposition to a government plan to legalize gay marriage. And according to this article in La Croix, it's being punished for that opposition today.
And some papers even comparing the minister, you mentioned there, Duflot, to the industrial recovery minister, Arnaud Montebourg. He also made controversial comments in the last few days.
That's right. Les Echos, the business daily, says that Cécile Duflot is doing a Montebourg. So just to remind you, last week, Montebourg threatened to nationalize an ArcelorMittal steel plant to save the jobs there. Now, in the end, Prime Minister Jean-Marc Ayrault said there would be no nationalization, and Montebourg drew a lot of criticism for throwing around this threat. So now Duflot is threatening to requisition these empty church-owned buildings. Le Figaro, the right-leaning newspaper, says nationalization, requisitioning, this is nostalgia, comrades. And it says that though the ministers making these comments are very young, the ideas that they're putting forward are ancient and out of date. And according to Le Figaro, this is embarrassing for François Hollande, who wanted his socialist government to be modern and in touch with its time. And Le Figaro says that it's bracing itself for the next outrageous comment that one of his ministers is going to make.
And finally, from France, Le Figaro is taking a closer look at what's going on in French classrooms.
That's right. It turns out, according to Le Figaro, that there are several topics that teachers feel that they can't teach freely. And Le Figaro points out that the main controversial topics include history topics such as the Crusades, the Holocaust, colonization, the Algerian War, but also biology topics like Darwinism or sexual education. So mainly topics that touch on religion or identity. And according to Le Figaro, the debates in the classroom can get very heated and in fact can sometimes end in physical assault of teachers. But Le Figaro points out that it's not just biology and history. Literature can also be a very controversial topic. For instance, it quoted one teacher who said that one of his students refused to read Harry Potter because his evangelical family said that it was the work of the devil. So.
No comment. Florence, thanks very much. Florence Vilmino there here on France 24 with the papers. Here's the headlines. US intelligence.